Hey guys, so I recently brought some Cyber Dragon replays, and now normally I provide a deck profile first, but I was just waiting on some cards in the mail, so I did the replays first, but I will provide the profile today. But funnily enough, just yesterday it was confirmed that Clockwork Knight will be printed in Battles of Legend Crystal Revenge, which will come out in a little over a week from now. And so I guess I'll provide an updated profile once that card becomes legal, and maybe I take it to a local tournament. But for now, I'll provide what I have at this moment, post Magnificent Mavens, and I'll provide some discussions around the Clockwork Knight card as well. So let's just get right into it. Alright, so starting with the main deck, we are starting with the 3 Cyber Dragon cores, of course. Searches you a Cyber Dragon Spell Trap. The search is mandatory, which is always pretty unfortunate, but especially now it's given the haveness. 3 Hers, primarily there to be pitched for Galaxy Soldier. We are playing the 2 Naxter. Some people play the 1, that's fine, although nowadays, you know, with the Shizu cards, milling things, maybe it may be best to play that second copy, just to have that in the deck for core to special it out so that you can revive like your Infinity or Rampage or whatever. But sometimes I do intentionally send it to the grave with Rampage for follow-up in the future turns for so that I can just revive this with Ref System and then bring back, you know, the Infinity or Rampage or whatever. We also have the 3 OG Cyber Dragon, so I'm still playing the Machine Dupe variant, of course, but now with the Clockwork Knight coming very soon. Once that is in the deck, you may have to reconsider and maybe not play the Machine Dupe variant and just play like one original Cyber Dragon, for example. And the reason for that is because Clockwork Knight increases your machine monsters by 500 attack, which you would think is great, and it technically is kind of nice, but the problem is the baby Cyber Dragons then become too big to be Machine Dupe to bring out like multiple Cyber Dragons, so that's why you might have to reconsider playing in a different way. On to the other monsters, we have the 3 Galaxy Soldiers. So normally I play 2 and most people play that too. The problem is with the Shizu cards milling from the deck, so once this goes to the graveyard, you just have no way of recurring this, at least in this deck. And so I wanted to keep that line of play still available in terms of being able to do the Nova Infinity play through Soldier, so I decided to up it a bit with 3 copies. We do have the other Light Machine and Jizukuru that you can search off of Repair Plan. Really good actually right now, because it's not like something that like destroys or anything by card effects, so good against tiers. I was actually trying multiples of Jizukuru, but I decided ultimately it was better to just focus on the Bestial package because that was the best way to combat tiers and testing. We do have the 2 Therian Regulus King as well, which is nice. Not as good in this deck as it would be in like ABC or Earth Machine, but it is nice to have another Omni Negate. It's nice to have a big body, and being able to equip Hers to this so that when you tribute this to negate and the Hers goes to grave, you can add a Cyber Dragon, which is kind of nice. And also, if you watch my testing video, you'll also see that if you equip original Cyber Dragon to this card, you can actually contact Fuse for Countertech Fortress with other machines with that Cyber Dragon in the equipped spell zone, which is really weird, but that is how the ruling works. As for the other monsters, as I alluded to, is the Bestial package, the 3 Magma Huts, the 2 Druid's Worms, and the 1 Serenier. And so these cards are really good. Now, keep in mind though, obviously you'll first realize that it can conflict, because if you use this on your opponent's turn, you know, you control a monster, so when your turn rolls around, you can't special summon Cyber Dragon anymore, right? Although at the same time, that's not too big of an issue. Like, you know, you prioritize Cyber Dragons where you just pitch it for Soldier, for example. And you know, this is something that happened, like, let's say in 2019 when Links were popular and Phantasme was a thing and it was Master Rule 4, you know, people played Phantasme and that conflicts with Cyber Dragon as well as Nibiru, so it's really not that big of a deal. And these cards are just super good, and technically you could banish like your own Cyber Dragon engrave with this, so that it makes Cyberload Fusion a little bit more alive, although it probably doesn't come up too often. Now, admittedly, this is actually very strong against Cyber Dragons as well, because we are light for the most part. So that is something that makes this deck, or this format, just really difficult for rogue decks. Okay, so onto the spells. We have the 3 Cyber Emergency, the best searcher in the deck, and just gets you whatever Cyber Dragon monster you need. You do have the Repair Plan to add the Light Machine. Primarily, you are adding Galaxy Soldier or Jizukuru if you already have what you need. Now, keep in mind, the reason why this is not as good as it sounds is that you need a Cyber Dragon engrave to be able to activate this. So, a lot of times when you have bricky hands, it usually involves this in your hand and just no way of actually being able to activate it. Other Cyber Dragon spells, the Ref System for that Monster Reborn, Cyberload Fusion, and the Overload Fusion. So this card is Good in the mid-game grind game situations where you like use it on your opponent's turn on like the end phase, for example. Bring out Rampage, pop like multiple back row. So that's kind of nice, but again, similar to Repair Plant, when you have a bad hand, it's usually like if you have this in your opening hand, because in your turn 1 play, it's not something you really do. It's something that you use after you set things up, especially with Overflow, after you banish materials to pop and then bring it back with Cyberload Fusion. Overload Fusion is very nice for OTKs. The downside now is that we don't have Anaconda, but even before Anaconda, people played it at 1 for the most part. Anyways, you can play it multiple if you want, but it's just more of a if you have it, you have it kind of card. We also do have the 3 machine dupes. As mentioned earlier, once Clockwork Knight comes out, might have to cut these. So like you would cut these and the 2 Cyber Dragons, and then that gives you room for like 3 Clockwork Knights. And you can either add 2 more cards or just not do it at all, because the main deck already right now is 46 in this day and age. I do find trying to stick to 40 with Cyber Dragons, at least for an OTK build, it's just very, very difficult. You don't have to be too fussy about trying to stick to 40, because we do need a lot of going second powerhouse cards on top of our engine. So yeah, just keep that in mind. The other main deck spell is the 2 Therian Regulus King field spells. The battle protection is actually pretty nice this deck, because you'd be surprised, we don't actually bring out Seeger all that often, and so our monsters are actually not that strong. So having battle protection is nice, and being able to recur the Therian King Regulus is also nice. I was originally playing like Mystic Mine and Terraforming on top of it, but Mystic Mine right now isn't that great. I really hate that card, so I honestly don't even want to play it too much anyways. Some other powerhouse spells is the 3 Pot of Prosperity. I know it's still a little too expensive despite the reprint, but it is very good in this deck. Who cares about the half damage? Honestly, it's better to have some kind of play than not being able to play at all because you bricked, which is kind of an issue for a long time with this deck, because you can have some really bad hands sometimes. Speaking of power trap or spells rather, is Triple Tactic Sounds, which is good going first or second. This is a blind second deck, so really this card comes up a little bit more often than other decks probably that's trying to go first, and just being able to take is quite strong, but the other 2 effects are obviously very strong as well. Also have the 2 droplets for some more monster negate. It's sort of nice when you do have that Hers that you can send off, so you can add a Cyber Dragon, and then it also gets your Repair Plant live, and also gets your Therian live to be able to summon as well. And lastly, for the traps, we do have the triple Imperm, which is a Cyber Dragon card only by artwork. No, you cannot search it. And then we do have the Overflow, which is a very nice way to pop things. And you might wonder, for those who are new to this deck, why play this if you're going second OTK kind of deck? Well, because, this deck is surprisingly grindy. You break boards, and then you try to prevent your opponent from coming back by having this afterwards and popping some cards. So that's 46 in the main, and let's just move on to the extra deck. Okay, so extra deck, we are going to start with the Almirage as always. Not too much to explain about that. Get your baby Cyber Dragon Grave to get that Repair Plant live. Anima, because Naxtra and Hers are level 1s. The Seeger for the OTK. Lina, honestly, this isn't that good in this format anymore. Previously, when, like, for example, when Branded Eldritch was huge, Mechaba with Invoke stuff, like, you can, like, special that, and that was kind of nice. Right now, it's not too strong, but it is there for us, as well as the Nightmare Phoenix to round out our links. I really like having some kind of back row removal, and Phoenix is pretty nice. The other Xyz, of course, the 2 Nova and 2 Infinities, really like that ratio. We also have the Big Daddy and Zeus, which is pretty nice because it's also a machine. Like, for example, in some instance where you're locked into machines, you can still summon it. And then you can also, for example, use Zeus, like, detach materials including Infinity. You can use Naxxer's effect to just bring back that Infinity if you have a way to special Naxxer that same turn. So it's kind of nice to have like a board wipe and another Infinity and negate. Another card I'm kind of testing out in the extra deck is actually Beatrice, and this is because of the number of bestial cards that I'm running, and especially when you draw a Magma Nut, then for sure you have a rank 6 play. And as I mentioned earlier, this deck can have consistency issues, and so it's honestly sometimes it's just a matter of like one card that would help you just pop off. So being able to send like a Hers, for example, not only adds you the Cyber Dragon afterwards, but it gets that Repair Plant live, it gets that Therian live, and that might just be enough for you to actually get your plays going. So this extra deck here is very flexible in Cyber Dragons, and especially because I'm not playing Super Poly anymore, which you can choose to do, but that takes up like 3 extra deck spots usually. So that's why I decided to be a little more flexible and experiment that. We do have the 2 Chimeratech Rampage. I used to play one for a while when Red Ice Fusion was a thing with Anaconda, but now we have Overload Fusion and Cyberload Fusion. Not to mention, Nova can also bring out Rampage when this gets like sent to grave by like a card effect, by your opponent's card effect rather. So having 2 is fine. You probably banishing one of them for prosperity anyways. And then the other Chimera Tech monsters, the Mega Fleet, which kind of comes up. It's nice to get rid of the elf, for example, but they'll just like use the effect before you get a chance anyways. But it is certainly something you need to have. The Fortress, this is going to be an interesting topic once Clockwork Knight comes up, because then you can just contact fuse all of your opponent's monsters as well. So I would probably bump it to... I would start out by testing it at 3 in my early testing. The third one never really came up, but you know, it's kind of fun to have, so might as well. So I mean, it might end up going down to 2, but definitely at least 2, but probably definitely 3 to at least start off the format with Clockwork Knight once it comes out, and I'll provide an updated list. Alright, so lastly for the side, we do have the 3 Dark Lord No Mores, just generic monster board wipe kind of thing, really strong and just very necessary. We do hate back row in this deck, so we do have the 2 Lightning Storms, the 2 Cyclones, the 1 Feather Duster on top of the Evenly Match. Now of course these are more generic board wipes in general, not just specific to back row removal. Now keep in mind the bestial cards do conflict, because you're going to control a monster, and so with Evenly at least, you know, you can like try to crash with bestials and then you can still use this. Lightning Storms not so much, although at the same time if you're putting in bestials then you're probably not putting in this as well. This is more so for back row focus decks, so that's sort of the reason behind that. And then we do need some going first options. I normally only play Summon Limit, but I'm testing out Rivalry actually, which once Clockwork Knight comes out, this is going to be actually really good, because it's sort of like that zombie world block where essentially, you know, like the opponent's monsters, they're going to be machines on the field with Clockwork Knight, and now whatever in their hand, they're probably not playing a machine deck, so they won't be able to summon anything. So that's why that lock is really cool, and certainly a little gimmicky, but it's kind of nice. And I just had that one flex spot, and I wanted to just decide to dedicate it to another going first option, which is just a pointer, which is Saki now that it's at 1, but you know what, it's there when you draw it, and it's just really strong, and certainly will be very impactful in helping you win. Alright guys, so that was it for the deck profile. Hope that was helpful, and if you want to learn how to play the deck, certainly make sure to check out my Cyber Dragon replays, but also you can feel free to leave down any questions in the comments and I'll try my best to respond. Again, I will provide a more updated list with Clockwork Knight once that becomes legal in about a week or 2, and I'll provide some testing videos as well, and so stay tuned for that. And well, thanks to all my Patreons as well as my sponsors, and take care everyone.